Rahul, let me come to you now in terms of the opportunities that you believe present India at this point in time, the sectors that you believe are poised for growth and have a strength and advantage at this stage.
So I think just to build on the previous points, and then I'll come to your point, I think we have to de-average the situation a bit. And if you see from our vantage point, we are the least dependent on US exports. Especially as far as goods and merchandise is concerned.
Yeah, 2%.
2%, and it doesn't move the needle for us in terms of our domestic GDP growth and so on. So I think if we negotiate well, as has been said, right, it can open up a large window of opportunity, especially in sectors where the differential tariffs are there and where we have longer term advantage. So if I was there, I would go out and think of it as a positive opportunity creation, where whether it is electronics or it is textile or it is cables and wires, where we see the competing nations have relatively higher tariffs than us. On the other hand, I think we need to be also aware that the whole world trade will get rewritten, and which means that countries which will not provide or supply material to America will supply elsewhere. And for example, China, which has large capacity of many products, they will find their way into the country. So we have to be resilient. We have to watch that closely and ensure that our industry is protected against that.
So let me put a challenge your way now. If you had a client who asked you to draw up a scenario for India at this point in time, perhaps the Indian government reached out to BCG and asked you to draw up and do some scenario planning, what would be the 3 or 4 things that you would ask the government to prioritize?
I think it's difficult to pinpoint, but I would say first we have to, in the short term, there will be uncertainty. And there is uncertainty. Whenever uncertainty happens, people freeze decisions. Capital investments will go slow, and therefore in the near term, we will face, and not just we, everyone in the world will face some decision paralysis, some capex slowdown, and therefore it is good to incentivize the economic growth, because our economy is strong and resilient. If you look at our drivers of economy, it's more consumption-led. I think we are talking about manufacturing, but manufacturing has stayed at 15 to 16 to 17% of GDP for decades.
For the last, right? Several decades.
And in contrast, Korea, China is 25, 27%. Yes. If we want to grow from 5, 6% to 8, 9%, we need manufacturing to pick up. But our base growth comes from consumption. And that is there. Our demographic profile, our rising GDP per capita, spending power, all of that poises to all, whether it is financial services, healthcare, anything that our mass consumes will grow, irrespective of all the macro trends.
And I think it's important to get that reality check that Rahul has put on the table, and Rajiv and Karan, I want you to address this. We've been talking about this manufacturing aspiration of 25% to GDP for over 15 years now, and we're still anywhere between that 13 to 17%. We're nowhere even close to the 20%. Why do you feel hopeful of the fact that we're finally going to see that breakout moment?
Shireen, I think there is the question you asked earlier. We should take a bold aspiration, and I agree. How do we think about getting the manufacturing up significantly? So the bold aspiration would be, can we get to $1 trillion of exports in, say, 2030? Keeping in mind that, this won't happen in the next year, given all the uncertainties. We are very well positioned when it comes to 5 or 6 sectors, which I have a hard time believing will move to the walled garden of Mexico. If you think about the pharma, we are massive headroom ahead when it comes going beyond generics. We have 50% of US generics. There is vaccines, there's specialty pharma, there's a whole host we can look at. The chemical complex is another big one. You need energy for chemical complex, where our renewable energy is a big plus. There is electronics that we just spoke about. There is the need for textiles. You won't see textiles moving to the US. So I think there's machining. So there's 5 or 6 sectors, I think that should be the focus. But here we need global scale players. We need even global players to come in and be competitive. And we need the right incentives for this to be to truly participate in the global value chain, which is massive for us.
Yeah, Rajiv, go ahead.
So I'll respond to both the questions that you raised. And I would say manufacturing, I completely agree with what Karan is saying. I think there are 3 things which are really important. For the first time, electricity cost in India has become competitive. It was The second thing is logistics costs are actually coming down pretty regularly. Third thing, if you see, manufacturing space has been occupied by China. And if that gets vacated to some extent, where country build barriers, a little bit of barriers to ensure that China, you have some insulation against China, because it's very difficult to compete with China given the way they're looking at things. So if you look at all those three things, and fourth, if you look at the success in some of these sectors where PLI and others have come about, then I think there is a good story. Obviously, there's a lot that has to be done in terms of ease of doing business, factors of production, labor, land, and others. But there is a toolkit now that's there where I think the signs are very ominous. Therefore, how India puts itself into the global value chains, how do we get some leaders the way we've got Apple, and then roll that out, I think that will be very important.
That will be very important. Yeah, Rahul, go ahead.
I'm going to build, I think manufacturing, there is a window of opportunity for us. We need to latch it. But for that to happen, three things need to fall in place. I think our cost of doing business, yes, power costs and logistics costs are getting better.
But it needs to do better.
Our financial costs, our land, labor reforms, if they all have to fall in place, because that's only when comparative advantage comes. Secondly, we can't do only end assembly. We have to build the full ecosystem.
Full stack,
So therefore, SMEs play a big role and the end users, whether it is app, and this is the Maruti moment for auto. They build the full ecosystem. We need to build the ecosystem for all these, whether it is electronics or semiconductor, and for that SME becomes. And third is innovation. We can't only be competing on cost. Therefore, investing in R&D, innovation has to be top of mind for all our industrial players.
Let's talk about the role that Indian conglomerates are going to play. And Karan, I want to get to you. When we talk about the $100 billion plus club, we talk about the $50 to $100 billion plus club. You were talking about scale and size. The role that Indian conglomerates need to play, how they should reshape their aspirations to cater to the new global order.
I think the conglomerates is a big story, and it is one of the biggest drivers for India in the next chapter. In fact, for the next couple of decades. The salience of conglomerates in this country will actually go up. Conglomerates are about 25–30% of revenues and profits and about 40% of capex. They have done exceptionally well in the last decade. The leading conglomerates have grown by 5 to 25 times in the last decade. They're very well backed. They're extremely ambitious. Their aspirations are really bold. And these are both promoters and also professional managers running these big, large conglomerates. And they're taking a very big, bold bet on the future. They are doubling down on what is their strength today. And they're reshuffling the portfolio to get into new areas, like we talked about with electronics, like we're talking about with defense, aerospace, like we've got talking about the opportunity in healthcare, opportunity in consumer.
But what will all of this mean now in terms of private sector capex picking up? Because that has been the grouse of the government, that look, we've done our bit. You need to start to do the heavy lifting now. So when you talk about reshaping aspirations and capex, when do we start to see this play itself out?
They are already investing. You may not see it in the capex, in the utilization numbers today, which is in the mid-70s, but the investments being planned is actually quite staggering. And this is where they're focusing on building new businesses. So I'm pretty hopeful with the conglomerates, we will start to see it. The question is that there's a big double down on India. I think we also need to start thinking about incenting and creating the right condition for global champions like we're seeing in China, so we can compete on the global stage.
Rahul,
If you go back 10 years in time, most of the industrial conglomerates were thinking of diversifying to either consumer sectors, technology sectors, services sectors. What has changed in the last decade because of PLI and all the policy stability is that mindset has shifted, and now manufacturing is back in the boardroom, on the drawing board. What we are seeing still is ability to vision at scale is only with very few groups. And that's what is the barrier. I think the opportunity is enormous. If we were to capture even a fraction of what China will vacate, there is enough play for us as a nation. But the question is, are we willing to really think big, put the right investments behind it and go for it?
Yeah, Rajiv.
Yeah, just to make your panel interesting, I have a slightly divergent view. I think conglomerates' competitive advantage is they have capital. And obviously the management skill that they have developed is very strong. So their ability to take those bets are very big. What we saw in services happen when you had the startups coming, we are now starting to see early signs of startups receiving funding in the manufacturing and in newer areas also. So if you look at newer areas in engineering, defense, electronics manufacturing,
Drone manufacturing, Space tech.
medical systems, space tech, I think you will see startup companies coming where it requires very deep conviction, deep competencies, and capital is there. See, what happened was in the early parts, India developed because DFIs provided that capital.
Yeah.
DFIs went away, then stock markets provided that capital. And then venture capital, private equity provided that capital only in the services and technology sector. So the space of, large scale, large capex manufacturing went to the conglomerates, and they've done a phenomenal job of actually building that out. But there is a lot of manufacturing which requires intellectual property, R&D, innovation, requires capital, not humongous amount of capital, but requires intellectual power and talent. And I think the startups will come in there in a very aggressive way. You'll also see AI coming in some of these areas in a very significant way.
Yeah.
Shireen, I think a future-back trend is really capital substituting labor in the long term. And I think, how do we play a key role, as Rajiv rightly said, with AI, with software, which is a huge strength of this country, and that is going to be a critical, driver of growth going forward. But I agree. I think the ecosystem for entrepreneurship, whether it's the young entrepreneurs, the government incentives, the capital. I mean, we're talking about 100 billion that has been deployed in the VC community in the last
Yes,
in
and
last few
plenty
years.
of dry powder still.
And there's massive monetization. So I think there's a vibrant ecosystem for digital insurgents that will play a key role in the next chapter as well.
So very quickly, the last 1 minute, the big engines of growth that you foresee over the next 5 to 10 years for India.
I would say higher spending because of higher income levels and consumption. Second is AI. If we play the game well, it will be a game changer for us. Thirdly, climate and decarbonization. Again, the whole energy transition space is very much there. It's not gone. So that and manufacturing is the joker in the pack. If we get it right, it will be the biggest game changer.
It could be the biggest game changer, Karan, the engines of growth.
I think consumption is a big story in India. I think the second one has to be about manufacturing. Third one is energy transition. And I think we need services, which is around healthcare and education.
Rajiv?
They haven't left anything out, so they've not said one or two, they've said five. But I think India's story is India's per capita income of $3,000 going to $15,000 in a span of next 20 to 25 years. That's obviously going to spur consumption, premiumization, services around that. So that's one. I do think that if I have to pick up anything, energy transition and manufacturing, where India gets plugged into some global supply chains, those will be the two biggest differential pieces of growth.
Two biggest differential pieces. Before I let you go, gentlemen, I have to ask each one of you, your favorite consultant joke.
Sorry, my favorite?
Your favorite consultant joke.
My favorite consultant joke. I mean, they're on some MBB company, so I'll keep quiet. I have a long one, which I will not say.
The time is up, is that right? But gentlemen, it's been absolutely fabulous. Thank you very much for future casting with us in a very uncertain world of the opportunities that India must focus on and the advantages that India does enjoy at this point in time. It is going to be an interesting playbook. It is going to be an interesting world as we see the global order change and shift. Will it be advantage India? The jury is out on that, but we certainly look poised for the better. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for joining us here.